Whether it be the after effects of wars that have lasted more than a decade and show no indication of being settled anytime soon, dictators seeking to illegally annex nations and bring a level of fear back to an entire continent, maybe the world, or people merely seeking a better way of life, there has been an unprecedented amount of movement across borders in recent years. While we here in America look to the south and seek to deal with our version of those crossing into this country, the European human map has been and is continually being redrawn on almost a daily basis as refugees seek to move north. And that means moving through nations that are being crushed under the human weight and feel as if they need to take action, strong and controversial action, if their way of life is to continue. One nation is boldly taking those steps and could become a template for other countries, in spite of certain international concerns usually emanating from those who are not at the heart of the issue itself. This heart is the nation of Hungary, where more than 400,000 people have passed through en route to places such as Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, and elsewhere in the European Union. Let's then welcome the Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Peter Szijjarto. Minister, thank you so much for joining us, and I want to get right to what is happening in Hungary and how it has affected your nation. About a year ago, there was a fence that was built on the southern border. Now there is a new fence being built, electronic surveillance equipment, and a paved road for police border hunters to take care of this massive amount of humanity that is crossing the border into Hungary. Why then is the wall and all of these effects that are being taken, why are these the best options available to Hungary?
Well, actually, this is the most serious crisis European Union had to face ever since her foundation. And when last year this migration crisis hit in, European Union wanted to find a common solution. That's why we have not done anything for 3 months, because we were waiting for the common solution. You pointed out rightly, 400,000 people marched through the territory of my country during that time, violating our border, attacking our police forces, breaking our regulations and laws, occupying public areas, and we had to stop it. Because international law says that right to a safe life is a fundamental human right. But it is not a fundamental human right to pick a country where you would like to live in, and in order to get there, just violate borders between safe countries. You know, these people came to us from Serbia and from Croatia, two peaceful countries. I don't think there's any excuse for anyone to violate a border between two safe countries. And in order to be able to protect our border, we had no other choice. You know, protecting more than 500 kilometers of border, totally plain, without any kind of major natural obstacles. The only way to do it is building a fence and put there police. That's it, how you can protect yourself, your border, and European Union and the Schengen zone as well.
Why then did the European Union leadership fail so badly here? Because it would seem to me and so many others that they could see this happening. It's not as if it was happening overnight or it was invisible, and they seem to not give a damn about what happened to the nation of Hungary.
You know, Europe has been facing historic challenges. And unfortunately, the debates about these historic challenges are not on a basis of common sense or rationality. We have emotional type of debates, hypocrisy and political correctness. And those countries, those governments who name the challenges as they are usually bashed, allegated, accused by European media and European political leaders. We were the first country, and we are the country which names challenges as they are. And actually it is Central Europe, the Central European countries, which can be proud of themselves to represent very rational positions based on common sense. Until European leaders are able to leave behind this hypocrisy and political correctness, they will not find a common solution. And of course they are embarrassed by the Central Europeans who name the challenges as they are, who find the proper answers, and that actually deserves them.
How has this influx, this human influx, you briefly touched on it a few moments ago, how has it changed the nation of Hungary and made you less of a safe nation?
Well, actually, it's not a question that if you have a massive influx of hundreds of thousands of people, sometimes tens of thousands on a daily basis, without control or regulation, then it gives opportunity for terrorist organizations to send their terrorists and to send their fighters to Europe, which has happened. You can track the way now of those terrorists who took part in the Paris attack, or who took part in any other attacks all around Europe. So actually, the threat of terror in Europe is now extremely high as a consequence of the uncontrolled and unregulated mass migration. We were successful to maintain Hungary as a safe place, because as we sealed off our green border, we made it very clear that entering the territory of Hungary can only happen according to the international, European and national regulations. No other way. So Hungary remained a safe place. Investments and people are safe in the country. But unfortunately, Europe has been facing tremendous challenges regarding public security and terrorism.
Which organization, in your opinion, and the opinion of Hungary, has been the greater failure here? The European Union in dealing with this, or the United Nations, which many times just seems to sit on its hands and do absolutely nothing?
Well, my problem with the approach of United Nations is that it's absolutely biased and applies double standards. Let me give you a concrete example. As we sealed off our green border to Serbia, those migrants who wanted to violate our border, but they understand they couldn't, they started to attack the Hungarian police, which was there to protect the border from Serbian territory, throwing stones, pieces of concrete on Hungarian policemen for more than 1.5 hours. And then afterwards, the Hungarian police reacted by water cannons, and then United Nations, or the responsible persons in United Nations, gave out statements that Hungarian police is cruel, Hungarian people are inhuman, and we stepped, against, we attacked the innocent refugees. What happened? Young men, strong young men, attacked Hungarian police for 1.5 hours from the territory of another country. My question is whether, according to UN, this is acceptable in the 21st century. So I think that that UN commits a mistake by being hypocritical and being biased. Regarding European Union, unfortunately, we have not been able to put together a common solution. And now, the Western European leaders say actually very similar things to what we have been saying in the last 1.5 years. Of course, we don't expect them to say, okay, we were wrong and Hungarians were right and we have to do it that way or that way. But what they say now is exactly what we have been saying in the last 1.5 years. They speak a lot about the protection of external borders, but nothing happens. So our problem is that, that verbally they are there already, but practically nothing really happens.
There have been many discussions here in America about the potential for building a wall on the southern border. Hungary has already built a wall and is improving on it. Do you believe, and does the Hungarian government believe, that the model that your country has used now in order to protect yourself might work for America?
Well, actually, I am not that brave enough to give advice to the Americans. But what I can tell you is that we have been studying what Americans have been doing on the southern border of the United States of America. And we understand that in your country, border protection is very important. We understand that American people are already used to have security as the #1 issue of every policies. European people actually study that now. We are in a learning phase, because so far Europe was a safe place. But now we have to put security, preserving security, in the focus of all our European policies. So, actually, if you ask me whether this solution of Hungary works or not, I can tell you that this is the only solution that have worked so far.
Is the greatest fear of the nation of Hungary, which, by the way, is the birthplace of my grandfather, and he would be very happy to hear me talking about this today, but is the greater fear here that with so many refugees pouring across the border, that the identity of Hungary, that the culture of Hungary may just one day disappear?
Well, actually, that is a real fear, a real danger, let's put it this way. Because if you have a massive influx, hundreds of thousands of people from from different culture, different heritage, different background, then the identity of your country can be changed relatively easily. And this is something which we would like to avoid.
I cannot let you get away without asking one question about Vladimir Putin and Russia, because certainly we are faced every single day, your country is, and the countries in Europe are faced every day with what is, in essence, a regrowing dictatorship in Russia and the many border conflicts that Vladimir Putin has already forced. In the opinion of the Hungarian government and your own as well, is Vladimir Putin at this point the single most dangerous factor in Europe, and one that many people see as a regrowth, if you will, of the possibility of heading this planet back into a World War III scenario?
Well, actually, this is the issue where I think we need common sense and rationality, and not the emotions. Because it is obvious that the only chance to regain, let's put it this way, stable surrounding, stable circumstances in the world is that the transatlantic community and Russia are able to come back to a rational, mutually beneficial, calm and correct partnership and series of discussion based on mutual trust and based on trust towards international law. You know, I'm coming from Central Europe, like your grandfather did. And we know from our history that if West and East have a conflict, if the transatlantic community and Russia/Soviet Union did have a conflict, then Central Europe was a loser, regardless of our status, regardless where we belong to, regardless of the formation of our countries there, we were losers. So our interest is to come back to a normal relationship between Russia and the eastern part of Europe, and the western part of Europe and the United States of America. And we have to admit that Russia still has an impact on European policy. Russia still has an impact on Central Europe. And those ones, us who are living in Central Europe, we cannot afford not to talk to Russia on a regular basis.
Is that still a real fear, though, that with what is happening right now at Vladimir Putin's hands, that Hungary once again faces the possibility of losing?
Well, actually, what we can lose, when we can lose, is that if there's no solution or no comeback to a correct and a constructive relationship between East and West. You know, there's always a question whether Russia is a threat to Hungary. I can say no, we don't feel Russia would be a threat to Hungary. There are some other European countries who feel, yes, it is a threat to them. We respect their feelings, but we expect everyone to respect our position as well.
And let us hope that respect and trust is grown once again in Europe. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade for the nation of Hungary, Peter Szijjarto, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.